Hey, what's up, fellow gamers? It's BC from A7 Video, and I want to do something slightly different for this week's game rant, if you all will indulge me. So the good people at Base Command, my friends over there, if you're not familiar with Base Command, I'll be sure to have a link to their website and to their YouTube page in the video description below. But the good people at Base Command have put together a People's Choice Award list for the top 10 open world games that they did on their website. It was actually open to the public. They could come in and vote for the games they thought were best. I even had a chance to vote. And now those results are in. They've got the top 10 list based on everybody's votes. And they've asked several of their friends on YouTube, myself included, to come in and talk about why these games are good open world games. Now, I'll be honest up front, there's a couple of the games I haven't played, or some of them that I've only dabbled in, and there's a couple of games that I really don't like on the list. So while I will end everything and tie everything together by saying what I think makes it a good open world game, I'll also toss in some of the things I don't like about some of the games I don't think should be on the list. Just from my personal opinion. I think objectively speaking, they probably do belong on the list. But with that said, and without further ado, I'd like to jump right in with number 10. Number 10 on the best open world games list is Terraria, or Terraria, if that's how you all prefer to pronounce it. I've always pronounced it Terraria, but Terraria works too. But what makes this an open world game that's really good? In my opinion, it's a sense of progression and an ease of play. So you can pick Terraria up, and I played it actually on the Xbox 360. I didn't play the PC version. I imagine that there's some facets on PC that make it a little bit more intuitive and easier to play, but I enjoyed it quite a bit on the Xbox 360, which in my opinion, for a crafting game, says a lot. So this idea of progression, it's first of all, you can pick the game up and immediately start playing it and figure out almost exactly what you're supposed to be doing because the interface is extremely intuitive. But on top of that, there's this sense of go out, explore the world, and mine to your heart's content. But beware, there be monsters out there. And if you go too far in the game before you're ready, before you've developed, you've mined better stuff, better minerals to go out and then produce better gear, you're going to get served without a doubt. There's monsters out there that will tear you apart. There's even parts that you really can't even navigate because you don't have the tools like the grappling hook to get down there. So that's why I think Terraria absolutely belongs on the list. I actually probably would have put it a little bit higher on the list than number 10, somewhere maybe around 6. But neither here nor there, it belongs on the list, and I think it's dope. All right, so number 9 on the list is the Batman Arkham series. This is one that I'm not really qualified to talk on, so I'll be very brief. I've only played the first 2. And when I say played, I played the demo for the first one, and I played like 10 or 15 minutes of the second one because I was doing video footage for another show. So I really don't know enough about the Batman series to say here's why I think this is a great open world game. But I can tell you this, the combat is very fluid. It's very pick it up and let's get into it. I liked that, and I also felt that there was a certain level of authenticity involved in the series. Like I felt like I was really watching a Batman show, if you will, along with the villains as well. So I thought they paid proper homage to DC, and it had great combat. Other than that, I don't really know what else to say because I ain't play it. All right, so coming in at number 8 is a series that I'm slightly more qualified to speak to, but not completely qualified to speak to, and it's the Assassin's Creed series. So I only played Assassin's Creed 2. It's the only one I played and actually finished, and actually I don't even think I played the other ones. I played that one and I finished it, but I can tell you this, it has a great sense of place. When you go to these places in Europe, some of which I've actually been to, you really get this sense that you're there. It creates this crazy environment that you totally escape into that I really loved. And I also enjoyed the combat and the sense of like exploration that's encouraged to go out there and continue to delve out the story and run into these NPCs that continue to further the plot and the subplot. So from that perspective, I thought it told a really good story. I thought it had good combat, but more than anything, it had a great environment that you can really fall into. All right, at number 7, I'm just going to name it because I'm completely unqualified to speak on it. They put Red Dead Redemption. I've never played that game. Maybe you all played it and you think it's awesome, but I can tell you this. There's another Rockstar series that's on this list, which goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, which, in my opinion, I would never have it on any best list. Objectively speaking, maybe, but in terms of my personal opinion, I hate the other series, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say I probably would hate Red Dead Redemption as well. I don't know that for a fact because I've not played it, but I'll expound on that when we get to the other series. All right, coming in at number 6, we've got the Fable series, what I would call the spiritual successor to Zelda. And I'd also say that about Assassin's Creed as well. And Frankly, I think Fable, in some ways, now hear me, and Assassin's Creed do Zelda better than Zelda does nowadays. But that's because I don't like the Zelda formula, and that's a personal beef and gripe with that series. I don't want to bring that beef into this discussion. Just know that Fable 2 and Fable 3 are the only ones that I played. I played around in the first village or the first one and got bored and left it alone. I loved Fable 2 though. There's this sense of exploration and adventure, that, the things that I actually enjoy in Zelda. But then there's also kind of this constraint. I don't even know if I could really call it an open world, except for the fact that you are pretty much permitted to go where you like. But I didn't really like Fable 3 that much, and that was more because it was a stripped down version of what made 2 great. Now, I've also heard for those that love 1, 2 did the same thing, so don't hate me. But anyway, or hate me if you want, that's cool too. But the bottom line here, what I thought Fable did best was the sense of economy. So it's this game where I go out and I adventure and I get money and I do things in the world, right? But I bring that back and I buy a house in the ghetto. And then as an entrepreneur, as I feel that I am, I go out and say, well, I'm going to rent this house in the ghetto out to somebody else, probably one of the hookers. And there are hookers in the game, I'm not making that up, that work down the street. So I rent the house out to a hooker. I collect the revenue from that, and eventually I have enough money to go buy a better house in a better neighborhood, and so on and so on and so forth. And even in Fable 3, you eventually own the castle, and you have this coffer full of gold and treasure, excuse me. I thought that was dope. Like, that was the main thing that kept me playing Fable, other than the fact that back in those days I was an achievement junkie, which would do anything to completely get all of the achievements in a game. And at number 5, we have a series that I think doesn't even belong on the list. But before you change the channel when I mention the Borderlands series, understand I'm not coming from a place of being a hater. I actually enjoyed Borderlands 2 fairly moderately, I guess I could say. Didn't really care for the first one much at all, but that's because Borderlands is very repetitive. I think if you're the type of person who enjoys loot mongering, which, again, if I'm being positive, that is the hook of the game. That's what makes it a good game. I don't know if that makes it a good open world game, because frankly I also don't really completely believe that Borderlands should be considered an open world game, and that certain areas are not even open to you until you've completed certain story elements. And on top of that, it's really not a sprawling map. It's just really large but condensed maps that are tied together with warp zones. But I won't get into that debate, because you could use that argument for a ton of games that I probably would consider are open world. But the bottom line is the loot mongering provides the hook for continuing to go on these missions, that you keep fighting monsters that keep leveling up with you, which is another thing that just drives me insane. Or if they don't, they scale down the amount of XP they give you as you kill them. But bottom line is the loot mongering provides a good hook for you to want to keep going through the open world. Also, the story, especially in Borderlands 2, Handsome Jack's probably one of the better villains I've encountered in a video game, period. And although the story itself, in my opinion, was pretty predictable, it was very well told, and made me want to, okay, let's see what's going to happen next. Let's continue to explore this world. Even though this is not a game that I'm in love with, I am curious enough to see what happens next, because these characters are so interesting. And at number 4, my favorite game series to hate, Grand Theft Auto. The Grand Theft Auto series. I hate those games. I hate them. I've played 3, I've played 4, and I played 5, and all of them usually lasted somewhere around 5 hours before I was completely frustrated and annoyed with the way the games play. So let me get the negative out of the way, and then I'll end it on a positive note. I hate the controls. I swear to you, Rockstar cannot put a control scheme together that doesn't feel like I'm running on ice. I hate it. Go license the Havoc engine, or the whatever engine you're using. Cut it out, because it sucks. It sucked in LA Noire. It sucks in Grand Theft Auto. Like, Crackdown is a better Grand Theft Auto than Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, I said it, man. Crackdown. Saints Row 4 is a better Grand Theft Auto than Grand Theft Auto. But let's not end on that. So that's what I hate about Grand Theft Auto. And I hate the whole heist and running from the cops, all that crap. I just want to blow stuff up and get strong and blow up more stuff. I don't want to run from the cops and do, crazy caper missions. But anyway, let's end on the positive note, right? So Grand Theft Auto 5 is the one I'll focus on, because that's the one that got the most time out of me. I played that for about 10 to 12 hours. The world. Oh, man. Talk about being able to replicate a fictitious but based on a real world where you really feel like you're there. I thought they did an excellent job with that. What they sucked at was giving me an incentive to go out and explore the world, and made it tedious by taking forever to get from one end of the map to the other. I said I'd stay positive. But really, I love the subplots in Grand Theft Auto 5. Like sitting in Franklin's house, which I did, and you can actually watch some of the Now Playing series I did with that. Sitting in Franklin's house and then watching TV, and then seeing how every TV show is basically making fun of the game for being over the top. But what they're doing is they're having a social commentary with this kind of morbid view of how the world has become, how we've become so self-centered, so self-absorbed, so ungrateful, and so just crappy. And I like that because there's so much of the world that really embodies that. And again, this is a caricature, so it's over the top, but it's exaggeration and hyperbole to make the point. And I think Grand Theft Auto probably does that better than any other game I've seen try to do that. All right, so coming in at number 3, we have my favorite series that's on this list. It's not my favorite series of all time, but the Fallout series. In terms of open world games, I don't know any other RPGs specifically that I've played, or even really open world games in general, that I've played that do storytelling as well as Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Now, I don't reference Fallout 1 and 2 because I never finished those. I played them, I enjoyed the environment, I enjoyed the narrative, but the gameplay was so evolved, and some of you would argue that it de-evolved in the 3D environment, and that's okay. I wouldn't agree with you, but I could see why you would say that. Neither here nor there. Fallout 3 creates these worlds and these narratives and these characters that I completely connected with and felt like I was there in the narrative, this post-apocalyptic world that resulted from our own hubris, our own inability to get out of our own way as human beings, which led us to become this savage monster race, which, we're kind of on that thin red line of, genius and insanity, or civilness and complete barbarism. There's a real thin line between those two, and I think Fallout really explains that in a very tangible way. Like, you go out in the world, go to a Black Friday, take these civilized people that work these six-figure jobs, but go out on Black Friday when they're fighting over a Tickle Me Elmo and shooting people in the parking lot over PlayStation 4s, and you tell me that that savage nature is not in the society that Fallout and Fallout 3 and Fallout 2 and 1 and Fallout New Vegas are talking about. Excellent series, definitely deserves to be on the list. All right, so at number 2, no surprise here, Minecraft. I agree with this being on the list as well. I greatly enjoyed my time with Minecraft, sunk about 20 hours into it. Would have played more if I didn't do this, where I make tons of videos. I have videos coming out every day, and it just doesn't lend me the ability to sit down and play games for hours and hours and hours at a time. But Minecraft, what they did right from an open world perspective is this: go and explore, and then while you're out there, discover. And then when you discover, hoard, and take that back and build and make better things, and then go back out and do it over. So it's much like Terraria. It's got this sense of progression where I go out and I find stuff that I can deal with, and I bring that back and I make my fixture where I can live. And then I'm doing constant improvements on my living environment and making beds and stoves and things that I can make better equipment with, better weapons so that I can defend myself against creepers and the other things that are out there in the world, but also better pickaxes and shovels so I can go and get better materials so that I can constantly make. It's a constant cycle of improving oneself, which, if you've listened to anything I've said on this channel, that's why I love RPGs. It's a constant recursive loop of fight, get better, and then go back and fight some more, which then helps you get better, which then leads you to fight bigger and better things. They get the elements of play. When you look at game design, and I'm not talking about coding, I'm talking about the actual when people design a game, they got that right. Minecraft's developers figured that out and got it dang near perfect as far as I'm concerned. Deserves to be on the list. I think very few games get that as right as Minecraft got it, and I think that's evidenced by the numbers Minecraft has been able to put up in terms of sales. All right, so number 1 on the list should also not come as a surprise to anybody. We've got the Elder Scrolls. And Elder Scrolls basically, in my opinion, wrote the book on modern open world games. All the way back to Daggerfall, fast forward all the way to Elder Scrolls Online and even Skyrim, which I would argue is the weaker of the 3 Elder Scrolls that I've played. Now, I've never played Daggerfall, never played the Arena, and I think I may have those reversed. But I've played Morrowind, I've played Oblivion, and I've played Skyrim. Morrowind is actually my favorite, and I'm not one of those haters. It's like, it's not as good as it used to be. The reason why I loved Morrowind more than Skyrim and Oblivion is also the reason why I think Elder Scrolls belongs on this list. Don't know that I would list it first. I'd probably put Fallout above it, but here's the deal. Elder Scrolls puts you in a complete fantasy world that you love being in, if you love that type of thing. I remember in Oblivion, actually, on the reason why I bought an Xbox 360, mind you, there was this mountain that I climbed up. I was doing like the Knights of the Nine quest, and I climbed up this mountain, and then I realized I had this vantage point of the world in front of me, and it was so gorgeous. And if you know me, you know that I play games as a means of escape from the real world. Not that I'm getting beat up out there, and I have to come escape, but everyone needs an escape from their reality from time to time. Video games just happens to be mine, and I think the Elder Scrolls fantasy world provides that for people who play games the way that I play them. And the ability, you know, I've seen real world places that games like the Elder Scrolls are based on in Europe and other places that I've either lived or been to in my lifetime. And it's gorgeous, and I love that. I'm always wanting to go, what's around this next corner? Let me see it. It's not as obviously as good, I think, as Fallout was with the narrative and the character progression, but I always thought that the story in Oblivion and Skyrim, it was just there to kind of keep you going. What the real purpose of the game was to get you lost in this world and to develop your character, to be the best fighter and crafter and alchemist that he could be, depending on what you chose to become. And what also makes it an excellent open world game is the fact that it lets you choose what you want to be. Unlike a lot of European RPGs that force you to pigeonhole yourself. So go back to like my Divinity review, where it's like, you're going to be an archer, you're going to be a swordsman, or you're going to be a mage. I dare you to delve into any of these other skills when you're supposed to be an archer. You're going to get served. I hate that about European RPGs. Elder Scrolls never really did that. You know, and you go back to the Morrowind comments that I was making, I felt like Morrowind captured the fantasy world the best, even though it was very dreary, it was very dark compared to like Oblivion, even though, you know, they had the Oblivion gates, which were kind of dark. I still felt like the atmosphere was just in Morrowind more so than it was in Oblivion and Skyrim. And that's not to say that it wasn't dope in those two, because it was. I just felt like Morrowind was the stronger one, and absolutely why Elder Scrolls deserves to be on this list. And I have droned on long enough, friends. That's all I have for the top 10 open world games from Base Command. I want to thank my friends at Base Command for inviting me to do this video. I actually don't know how much of this will make it into their final edit. The whole video will be on my website. But for those of you on Base Command watching, I hope that we've given you something to think about, something to discuss, whether you agree or disagree. Hope that we've encouraged you to come and check out our channel over at Alloy 7. For my friends and family over at Alloy 7, please give Base Command a look. Again, I'll have links to their stuff in the video description. Make sure you go and check that out. But until next time, until all are one, friends, this is BC from A7 Video signing off. Allow me to tell all of you peace and Godspeed. We'll see you back here on the next Alloy 7, or maybe even on the next Base Command video. Peace out.
Alloy.